Dear God, I mean, why are you still Mormon? Why do you not want to study the church? I'm born and raised Mormon. I'm studying the church. I'm learning the truth. Joseph Smith, the good guy, his church gone. I want it restored. How simple is that to understand? Why do Mormons hate me? That they want me dead? Unless they know that it isn't the true church. That they are the enemy that is seeking to overthrow America and the rest of the world. Even Russia. To stab Russia in the back. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because there's nothing the church can do to convince me they're true. Nothing. Not a single Mormon can bear a false testimony to me to convince me I'm wrong. That's next Sunday, not this Sunday, tomorrow. Why can't Mormons understand this? I'm under full attack. My life is destroyed. And here I am, doing a video for you. And you still won't believe. Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, my all-day video series, when I probably should figure out what to pack and do scanning so that I don't have to figure out what to leave behind. Nonetheless, I'm doing videos to warn you. I saw in the news today that a woman using the new Facebook virtual reality Meta has already been sexually groped and I can already see people outraged with Meta rather than going after the gropers to shut it all down and stop the nonsense of the Facebook guy. In every new technology, there is always something sexual that is used with it. It's without fail. But it's a psychological manipulation on our society to misinform and disinform us about our sexual natures. I saw the cold open. I don't understand why it's called cold open for SNL. But nonetheless, it was about Russian disinformation. And of course, there's always sexual innuendo with SNL. But again, you see the psychological manipulation getting involved, even though SNL turned it into something hilarious. I've been watching this morning Demolition Man, as it was one of the movies back in the 80s that made fun of psychology. Demolition Man is a futuristic show in which a psychologist turns society into a brainwashed prison camp, making everybody believe that this is the perfect society. And so they send Wesley Snipes back from the cooler to assassinate the underground rebel who eats rat burgers. And so John Spartan teams up with Sandra Bullock to save the day and restore salt at the dinner table. Salt is not bad for you. I don't understand why people are thinking salt is bad. I didn't get that part. I understood the other parts, but yeah. This psychological warfare on America has been going on for quite a while, as the Book of Mormon even talks about it, as Korihor's logic is all wrong, as those are the very things that have infiltrated science to overthrow science. And it was supposed to be Christianity, as Christianity likewise has infiltrated science to overthrow science, so that their supernatural Jesus creation of earth can dominate our school systems. And my field of study was all about the psychological fraud and the fallacy arguments that infiltrate science, and how to detect them and dismiss them and develop correct theories for science. As the San Andreas with The Rock in a hat, Dwayne Johnson. I finished that this morning. As I get carried away with a funny tangent, lose track of where I'm going. But something involved with the topic of psychology. Science, right. The one scientist who figured out the pattern of earthquakes, that's not quite accurate. That was part of the Hollywood magic, but that's how science is supposed to work. You look for the patterns, you explain the anomalies through the development of a theory to be tested. If you just say stuff and you don't test it, you're going to get deceived. And that's what Korihor and the Antichrist of the Book of Mormon are able to do, is they just throw stuff out there, people get warm, tingly sensations, and it must be true, and they follow these nutcases. And it leads to dangerous, deadly drinking of Kool-Aid. And it's all part of the psychological warfare that is to be played out in the latter days and is in full effect right now. In Alma chapter 3, go further up the page, verse 19, talking about the Amlicites, could even be Amalekites, for without kings, without a king people. But regardless, they joined the Lamanites. And once they joined the Lamanites, they began to mark themselves in their foreheads with 666. Nevertheless, they had come out in open rebellion against God. And so, yes, it is associated with the mark of the beast in Revelation 13, which is all part of the psychological manipulation. People turn themselves into what the psycho people are trying to make them into. That's the box category. The mental box category came from psychology, so that they can control you. Because when you start placing people in category boxes, as Demolition Man perfectly illustrated, you have the controlled society that believes that they're the good guys, and the underground people wanting to be free are the bad guys just because they need food to eat and survive. So they're labeled as criminals and hooligans and people who do not enhance their calm. All sorts of ridiculous stuff because of it. And so in 19, the author of the passage here, now I would that ye should see that the Amalekites brought upon themselves the curse. And doesn't specifically say what the curse was. It just says that nevertheless they had come out in open rebellion against God, therefore it was expedient that the curse should fall upon them. The curse is the consequences of your belief system. And whatever you choose to believe will have consequences. And if you choose the wrong belief, the consequences will follow. That's what this is talking about here. See, they joined the Lamanites. And once they joined the Lamanites, they chose to mark themselves as sacred and holy, setting themselves apart from the Nephites. And so that it's more of the sign of the curse in this particular case, just like the 666 in the forehead or what is it, palm, that you have to have your temple recommend number in order to buy or sell food in the latter days, after the church wins and conquers the world governments and restores the kingdom of Deseret. Did you not see the news article by the church about how you now have to be Mormon with an updated temple recommend to work at BYU? Are you paying attention? The Book of Mormon is true, and they're warning us, if you're not going to believe correctly, if you're going to believe the wrong thing, you're going to have the consequences. And so the Nephites, who survived this war of the Amalekites joining the Lamanites, resulted in chapter 4, has, again, it's being abridged for us. They had been afflicted, greatly afflicted, for the loss of their brethren, also for the loss of their flocks and herds, and for the loss of their fields of grain. They were trodden under the foot and destroyed by the Lamanites. And so that's the consequences of war. Destruction. And verse 3 is telling, because they did not learn anything from this war. And there's a latter-day war coming. Will Mormons learn from this war? And the answer is no. Verse 3, and so great were their afflictions that every soul had cause to mourn. And they believed that it was the judgments of God sent upon them because of their wickedness and their abominations. And so the concluding statement, from their false belief, therefore they were awakened to a remembrance of their duty. One of the psychological manipulations is a dichotomous fallacy. If it's not one way, it's the other. My way or the highway. If you're not with me, you're against me. This is a false doctrine, a false belief. This is what they did. And this is what I've seen Mormons do. Time and time and time again. That when Mormons do something for which negative consequences result, they then become more strict in authoritarian, fascist, take-away agency Luciferianism, thinking that their actions for which they had negative consequences was more liberal, deep state liberal. Again, false dichotomy. So you can see how the rest of the United States is under this false dichotomy, and it's leading to war. Has a certain asterisk 45 got up in Texas talking about such things to come. And it's very frustrating for me trying to warn you not to fall for the psychological manipulations. I see it with church history and church information of all levels, scriptures, theology, doctrine, administration, etc. That if the Book of Mormon is not literally history, then it's all fraud, and I've been deceived, and I can't have that, so it has to be literal history. Really? That dramatic? You want to be a drama queen, huh? Joseph Smith's history. It has to be literal history, otherwise there is no hope and all is lost. Seriously? One way or the other, huh? You know, Jesus has to be our Christ. That is the name. There is no other name. It's the name of the church. It has to be the name. There is no other name. Amen is not the name. Don't talk about that, Travis. Stop it. We're placing you in our false doctrine category box. Yeah. Because the consequences mean that the church is lying to you. The prophets of so-called Jesus have been deceiving you. That's exactly what it means. And you should be stressed, but not with me. You should freak out, but not with me. You've been brainwashed. And so you have these false thinking going on in your head. And I see this same baggage with those who leave the church. People who still believe Joseph Smith was the bad guy. There is evidence, direct source evidence, tying Brigham Young to all things Lucifer. I've gone over it with you in the Book of Mormon. Great and Abominable Church, the doctrines of Lucifer, the signs of Lucifer, the deceptions, pacification, flattery, deception, getting angry at the truth of Lucifer. It's blatantly obvious Brigham Young is, ta-da. But then people, Mormons, ex-Mormons even, throw in Joseph Smith. Because Brigham Young couldn't have been responsible for his own sins, we have to include Joseph Smith. There is no evidence of Joseph Smith involved with Lucifer. None. There's only hearsay. And the hearsay comes from those who have the evidence that they are. Everybody, including Brigham, who went with Brigham, are the ones saying Joseph Smith is wrong, or that Joseph Smith is the criminal. That's why we're doing it, because it's divine revelation, and so it's not criminal. Crime is not a crime. Truth is not true. Literal history is literal history. History is literal, etc. This is a propaganda campaign carried out by psychological manipulation upon you. So what the hell happened to where psychologists are now first responders at a school shooting, where they're first responders as witnesses in court hearings? You can't tell lies in court. You can't give your opinion in court. You have to tell the truth. You have to present evidence. Physical evidence. Psychology is a fraud. They have no evidence. It's all based on opinion. How the hell did our government give them such high-ranking status? As they are responsible in these latter days, turning the whole world from anti-pseudoscience into anti-science. See, Democrats used to want to claim science. We need to have science taught in our school system. And now they want psychology. And all the brainwashing of psychology. Oh, he's not a criminal. He's mentally ill. We need to segregate people who have discriminating identities. Segregated but equal. See, both parties, MAGA's, they're the 666 guys. Literally. Where's the sign in the forehead? Oh, MAGA caps? Blatantly obvious. As they all want to be Nazis. They all want to be Russian. I mean, if the propaganda on SNL was true, yeah, I want to be Russian. Potash? Sign me up. But I mean, dear God, it is laughable. If you're not brainwashed, it's hilarious. The stupidity that is being spread by people with PhDs. And so, yes, I am warning Mormons. Destruction is coming. I'll already be dead and gone, cast off from the wall of Utah by your stones and arrows. Samuel Lamanite. You do read the Book of Mormon at least, don't you, if you're not going to study it? But this is what's going to happen to you guys. You're going to be destroyed, and you're going to blame yourselves rather than realize that the prophets were the false prophets, like King Noah. That you were following their examples, just like the people of King Noah did. And so when destruction comes, you're going to want to pull this stunt. We need to be more strict in observing the words of the prophets. We need to take away agency, because when we're given our free agency, we are destroyed. This is the plot. Albert Pike. That's his plan. To utterly destroy Christianity, with the pure doctrine of Christ emerging. There it is, right there in the Book of Mormon. Albert Pike didn't write that letter until 50 years later. Almost 80. Well, 50. 50-ish. But you can see how the Book of Mormon knew that the plot was already in place. And by Book of Mormon, I mean the Smiths. They're warning you. Don't fall for it. You know, the church, as fascist conservatives, love to blame victims. So you get raped, well, you're now a bad person, because you were where you shouldn't have been. You should have been at home praying, or reading your scriptures, or going to the temple, whatever excuse to blame you for being a victim. And so then you're now placed in their category box of evil, and they treat you like that. That's what psychologists do. They place you in a category box, and then all their treatment is based on the box they placed you in. They name called you, and so they then treat you according to the name calling they gave you. It's a bullying tactic. That's what psychologists do. And they claim they help you. Yeah, they're predatorial groomers, because they themselves develop the signs of predatorial grooming. So they know exactly how to do it, and they use it on you, to tell you that others are using it on you, and you need to cope with it rather than having those people locked up for their crimes, which is an instant cure, because they're now gone from your life. No more trauma. So don't fall for it. You know, if you can't handle caffeine, it's not the judgments of God for drinking a Mountain Dew and getting a headache afterward. I don't. My DNA told me I'm not predisposed to the headaches of certain amounts of caffeine. There are other higher doses of caffeine, like energy drinks. Yeah, though I think they might, but not Mountain Dew. Even though I love the Canadian version, it doesn't have caffeine. It has orange juice. It tastes the same, and no caffeine. And they won't sell it here in America because it didn't sell well, apparently. I don't understand, but your headache is due to the consequence of your body not being able to handle caffeine. When you get drunk, I like beer. I watched that again today after talking about it in the video. And the social media platforms, when I was on them, they're just almost every single woman claimed to be a social drinker. That's code for mean drunk. Everybody thinks they can control their liquor, and then they black out and they get the hangovers and they barf up a lung and they just go right back to drinking. You know, it's like women in pregnancy. It's the most excruciating pain on the face of the earth that humans can ever experience. And yet once they have the baby, they've forgotten their pain and they want another one. Well, at least some women do. It was worth it. But yeah, babies are cute. But these other consequences are harmful to the body. Drugs, alcohol. You know, you don't need a word of wisdom to turn it into a commandment. To say, oh, it's God. The judgments of God if you violate the word of wisdom, and we've got to deny you a temple recommend. You have to pay money in order to be worthy. Otherwise you can't get a temple recommend. And you are cast out of our synagogue to bear your false witness next week at the pulpits of church. As others are getting up to talk today instead. Signed by the bishop. Lucifer's plan is never happiness. You read it in the Book of Mormon. Do you not believe it? Do you not believe the Book of Mormon? You claim and cry with your testimony that it's just so true. But then you go and show that you had no interest in the Book of Mormon and probably didn't even read it, let alone understand what you read. Your actions do not emulate your spoken beliefs, and thus reveal your true Freudian slip beliefs. So cut it out. I'm trying to help you. Like I said, I have no reason to. I'm destroyed. This is the last day I'm doing videos. Why will you not believe me? Why do you still come on my channel, Russia, to put a thumbs down and attack me? Seriously, Russia? Do you not understand the church is going to stab you in the back? You may think that, oh, we are superior Russians. We have superior knowledge over American dummies. No, they're going to stab you in the back. They plan to take over Russia. You may think that Putin has his plan, and he does. He's like a chess player, thinking who knows how many moves ahead of everybody else. But the church has planned to overthrow you. Not just America, not just the rest of the world. You. So why are you attacking me? See, I understand Mormons attacking me because they have to in order to preserve their false belief system. Because they don't think outside of false dichotomy. But you guys? Come on. I miss Anya. In 2014, I had Facebook and realized how awesome it was to be able to communicate with unknown people from around the world. That was awesome. And had become friends with Anya. And whether she is or not, doesn't matter. But she said that she worked in physics and was getting higher education in physics. When I first made contact with her, she was saying she was in Mexico, sent there by Russia to the conference that was down there to get extra knowledge on the certain subject matter, and then she came back to Russia in St. Petersburg and talking about her theory development, light waves through water, and bubbles specifically, water bubbles. But she changed when Putin invaded Crimea. She had to distance herself from me as an American, and her Facebook posts were all about supporting Putin. She has to. She cannot think for herself, like Demolition Man. She doesn't support Putin. They will find out, and it will not be good. Putin loves to poison. Oh, that Bill Maher. His favorite 80s band. You thought I was going to say Poison. It was Motley Crue instead. But it was sad. Putin literally cost me a friendship that I had made from clear across the world. 9-hour time zone difference. This is what the church does to Mormons. They all talk the talk of love, but in reality, it's hate. That's the belief system. It's hate. Because the consequences are not love. Mormons sending me to the streets to die, to be cast out of Utah. How is that love? Nobody stepping up to save or rescue me, to hide me, to give me refuge. Not love either. I'm being cast out, and it's already been demonstrated by the abandonment that I see on YouTube. You know, people are just going to go, oh well, you know, maybe you're afraid of the church. That if you stood up to defend me, that the church would smite you down and destroy your life too. Well, there's a Shakespeare quote. I'll have to pull it up to say it accurately. Know your quotes. Don't click on it. Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. Is this it? Huh. This is cool. myshakespeare.com. But doesn't have what I am looking for. Oh, there it is. Okay. Ring the alarm bell. That's like the whole script. It's awesome. Blow wind, come rack. At least we'll die with the harness on our back. And so Shmoop explains this for you. Macbeth tells the messenger that if he's lying about these moving trees, he'll be hanging on the next tree they see. And the church gets away with lying to us. They are literal bullies saying we'll make you an offer you can't refuse to each and every one of us who go to the temple. And so the reality is you don't want to be lied to, because that is a burden that you carry because you believed in them. That is baggage that they gave you and you chose to take it up. And there's my burden is easy, my yoke is light. It's only one place. Matthew 11. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The yoke is what's placed on the oxen's shoulders so that they can carry the plow, or any kind of other cart or whatever's being towed behind. People in bondage have the yoke placed on them because their hands are in between, they can't move, and it's for carrying buckets of water. You place the yoke on your shoulders so that you can carry heavy objects. Kind of need that when I go grocery shopping for gallons of milk and orange juice. But release the yoke of the church. Be free. Even if the church condemns you and destroys your life, you would rather be free rather than die with a harness on your back for believing in the lie. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he hath a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man gluttonous, and a winebibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. Right there in the Bible, the psychological manipulation of the masses.